Hi Year 5, hope you're all okay. We're going to be carrying on reading Kensuke's Kingdom. By the end of this week we should hopefully be finished because we've only got about that much left. So I'm going to carry on reading from where Miss Ahmed left off. But it was Kimmy and Mishia who talked of most, and about how he wished he could have seen Mishia grow up. Mishia, he said, would have been nearly 50 by now if the bomb hadn't fallen on Nagasaki, and Kimmy would be exactly the same age as he was at 75. I rarely interrupted him when he was like this, but once to comfort him I did say, bombs don't kill everyone. They could still be alive, you never know. You could find out, you could go home. He looked at me, then as if it was the first time such a possibility had ever occurred to him in all those years. Why not? I went on. When we see a ship and we light the fire and they come and fetch me, you could come too. You could go back to Japan. You don't have to stay here. He thought about it for some time, but then shook his head. No, he said, they are dead. That bomb was a very big bomb, very terrible bomb. Americans say Nagasaki is destroyed, every house. I hear them. My family dead for sure. I stay here, I stay safe, I stay on my island. Day after day we piled more and more wood on the beacon. It was massive now, bigger than ever, than once I had built on Watch Hill. Every morning, now before we went down to the pool to wash, Kensuke would send me up to the top of the hill with his binoculars. I always scanned the horizon both in hope and in trepidation. I longed to see a ship, of course I did. I longed to go home, but at the same time I dreaded what that would mean. I felt so much at home with Kensuke, the thought of leaving him filled me with a terrible sadness. I was determined to do all I could to persuade him to come away with me, if and when a ship came. At every opportunity now, I talked to him of the outside world, and the more I talked, the more he seemed to become interested. Of course, I never spoke of the wars and famines and disasters. I painted the best picture of the world outside I could. There was so much he didn't know. He marvelled at all I told him, at the microwave in our kitchen, at computers and what they could do, at Concorde flying faster than the speed of sound, at men going to the moon and satellites. These things took some explaining, I can tell you. Some of it he didn't even believe, not at first. The time came when he began to quiz me. In particular, he would ask about Japan, but I knew very little about Japan. Only that back home in England, lots of things, including our microwave, had made in Japan written on them. Cars, calculators, my father's stereo, my mother's hairdryer. I, made in Japan person, he laughed. Very old machine, still good, still very strong. Try as I did to trawl my memory, after a while I could find nothing more to tell him about Japan, but he would still keep asking. You sure there's no war in Japan these days? I was fairly certain there wasn't, and said so. They build up Nagasaki after bomb. I told him they had, and hoped I was right. All I could do was reassure him as best I could, and then tell him the same few things I did know about over and over again. He seemed to love to hear it, like a child listening to a favourite fairy story. Once, after I'd finished expounding yet again on the amazing sound quality of my father's brilliant Sony stereo that made the whole house vibrate, he said very quietly, maybe one day before I die I could go back to my home. One day I go back to Japan, maybe. I wasn't sure he meant it, but it did mean that he was at least considering it, and that gave me some cause for hope. It wasn't until the night of the turtles, though, that I came to believe Kensuke was really serious about it. I was fast asleep when he woke me. You come, Miss Mika-san. Very quickly you come, he said. What for? I asked him, but he was already gone. I ran out after him in the moonlight and came and caught him up halfway down the track. What are you doing? Where are you going? Is it a boat? Very soon you see, very soon. Stella stayed at my heels all the way to the beach. She never liked going out in the dark very much. I looked around. There was nothing there. The beach looked completely deserted. The waves lapped listlessly. The moon rode the clouds, and the world felt still about me as if it was holding its breath. I did not see what was happening until Kensuke suddenly fell on his knees in the sand. They very small. Sometimes They are not so strong. Sometimes, in the morning, birds come and eat them. Then I saw it. I thought it was a crab at first. It wasn't. It was a minuscule turtle, tinier than a terrapin, clambering out of a hole in the sand and then beetling off down the beach towards the sea. Then another, and another, and further down the beach, dozens of them, hundreds of them. I could see now, maybe thousands, all scuttling across the moonlight sand into the sea. Everywhere the beach was alive with them. Stella was nosing at me. At once, I warned her off. She yawned and looked inconsently up at the moon. I saw that one of them was on its back at the bottom of the hole, legs kicking frantically. Kensuke reached down, kicked it up gently and set it on its feet in the sand. You go to see little turtles, he said. You live there now. You soon be big fine turtle, and then one day you come back home and see me maybe. He sat back on his haunches to watch him scuttle off. You know what they do, Mika, mother turtles? They lay eggs in this place. Then one night time every year, always when the moon is high, the turtles are born. Long way to go to sea. Very many die. So always I try. I help them. I chase birds away so they not eat baby turtles. Many years from now, when turtles are big, they come back. They lay eggs again. True story, Mika-san. All night long, we kept our vigil over the mass of birth, as the infant turtles made their run for it. We patrolled together, reaching into every hole we found to see if there was any left, stuck or stranded. We found several too weak to make the journey, and carried them down into the sea ourselves. The sea seemed to revive them. Away they went, no swimming lessons needed. We turned dozens the right way up, and shepherded them safely into the sea. When dawn came and the birds came down to scavenge, we were there to drive them off. Stella chased and barked after them, and we ran at them, shrieking, waving, hurling stones. And we were not entirely successful, but most of the turtles made it down into the sea. But even here, that was still not entirely safe. In spite of all our desperate efforts, a few were plucked up out of the water by the birds and carried off. By noon, it was all over. Kensuke was tired as we stood ankle deep in the water watching the very last of them swim away. He put his arm on my shoulder. They're very small turtles, Mika-san, but they're very brave. They're braver than me. They do not know what they find out there, what happened to them, but they go anyway. Very brave. Maybe they teach me a good lesson. I make up my mind. When one day ship come, we light fire, and they find us. Then I go. Like turtles, I go with you. I go home to Japan. Maybe I find Kimi. Maybe I find Mikia. I find truth. I go with you, Mika-san. That's me done. You've got chapter 10 next. See you all soon. Bye.